When you travel around the world today, there is a sense, I think, that our world is fraying at the edges. This is not just the view of foreign policy elites here in New York. It's also the emerging view of the much wider international community, and indeed large parts of the human family itself. It's as if the world is being pulled in two radically different directions all at once. On the one hand, the forces of globalization, which over many decades now have drawn our various countries closer and closer together. Yet on the other hand, the forces of ethno-nationalism and the forces of religious extremism working in exactly the opposite direction, seeking to tear our world apart by seeking to relive ancient hostilities in this, our modern time. And while at the same time, the great and enduring tasks of poverty eradication, opportunity for all, and a sustainable planet continue to stare us in the face. It is very easy to criticise the current international system for its failures. Indeed, the critics of the United Nations are themselves legion. However, I'm always reminded of Winston Churchill and his great observation about democracy, the worst system of government in the world, except for all the others. And so too for the United Nations, the worst system of international government in the world, except for all the others. Therefore, the challenge for all humankind is not to believe that there is some utopian system that our collective intelligence and wisdom is yet to discover. Rather, it's taking our existing system and making it fit the purposes of our age. I'd salute those who met at San Francisco nearly 17 years ago. This was a bold and courageous vision coming out of the ashes of an extraordinary war. I salute those who crafted the UN Charter, a difficult task. I salute those who over the decades have built this great institution, these United Nations, into the first parliament of humankind. Salute the efforts of our current Secretary-General to continue the reform of the system. Just I would salute those who have struggled to put in place the Millennium Development Goals at the centre of the global agenda and who, despite the setbacks, now present us with the further possibility of sustainable development goals for the future. Just as I would acknowledge those who continue to work at the great challenge of global sustainability today and within it climate change, just as we have heard the voices of the world on the streets of this city over the last few days here in New York. Women and men of goodwill are, as we speak, struggling and straining across the global and regional institutions of the world in constant pursuit of our common mission, the betterment of all humankind and, of course, the planet itself. So, to echo the words of the President of the IPI, Rod Larson, the purpose of this Independent Commission on Multilateralism is not to call into question the system itself, or to point the finger at where problems across the system undoubtedly exist. Rather, it is simply to take a fresh look at how the system could be improved for the future to ensure that its functions and its structure are best suited for the purposes of our time. Our starting point, therefore, is to accept that as our foundation we have the post-2015 agenda on which member states are currently deliberating. The Independent Commission intends to consult comprehensively with member states, with their permanent representatives here in New York, also in Geneva and Vienna and Nairobi, as well as with the UN Secretariat itself. In these institutions lies so much accumulated wisdom from the past, as well as from the real dilemmas faced by the practitioners of the multilateral system as they seek to bring about real solutions to complex problems requiring multilateral participation. The Independent Commission will also seek submissions from global civil society to refresh our minds and to encounter new voices from among the peoples of the world, perhaps for the first time, about their deep aspirations for a better future for their families, their communities and their countries. For these reasons, the Commission will not be in the business of reinventing the wheel. I have a very simple view that there are already enough wheels rolling around the world at present. But we will be asking questions and seeking answers on whether our collective efforts and energies are being harnessed in the right direction. We do not wish to inflate expectations concerning this Independent Commission on Multilateralism. We simply see it as offering our collective thoughts to to those of many other individuals and institutions who believe passionately, as I have always done, in the inherent value and virtue of this institution that we call the United Nations.